Table Hacks. I'm Bill Jelen from Mr. Excel. Thanks for stopping by here. Boy, not a lot of Excel content at Ignite, so thanks for showing up. We're going to talk about 5 different cool tricks with pivot tables here. I do a seminar around the country for accountants and other groups, and some of these tricks I've learned along the road. I'll tell you who gave me the trick if it's one of those. All right, this list is in your app. The year-over-year top 10 with AutoFilter, mash up 2 sheets, mediums or text join, and then add this data to the data model benefits. But first, my hack number 0, I'm sneaking one in, is when I create a pivot table, insert pivot table, OK, and then put 2 fields along the left-hand side, sector and customer, you're going to see that my pivot table doesn't look like your pivot table. My pivot table puts each field in its own column, which is the way, as an IT guy, it belongs. Back in Excel 2007, when someone came up with the idea that it should be in compact layout as the default with everything jammed into one column, I rebelled against that. I said, what am I ever going to do with this, right? Took 6 years of lobbying and finally 1 year on excel.uservoice.com for them to give us file, options, data. This was introduced in Office 365, and then the ability to edit the default layout. So my pivot tables always start in tabular form, none of this compact layout. They always repeat all item labels. Make that change once, you'll never have to do it again. Now, I begged for those 2. They gave us more, though, where you can say for empty cells, show 0. You can turn off auto-fit column width on update. If you have people that love classic mode, you can even turn that on. So that's tip number 1, is just change all future pivot tables using the pivot table defaults, new in Office 365. It's been there for a year, let's say. All right. On to tip number 1, doing a year-over-year report. Year-over-year, and I know we can do this in Power Pivot with a calendar table, but I'm going to go low tech here. I just want to put dates along the left-hand side, and I get daily dates, 2 years worth of daily dates. I'm going to choose the first date field, and by the way, I changed this back to compact layout, which will drive me crazy. Let's go to tabular form, there we are. Choose the first date field, and then go into group field. Let's get the magnifier here so you can see this. You can roll this data up to seconds, minutes, hours, and that always baffles me. Who has data that they want to roll up to seconds? But you can do that. And then months, quarters, and years. So I'm going to turn on months and years. If you need to roll it up to weeks, come over here, number of days, change that to 7. That only becomes available if you have just days. Turn on days, and now you can create 7-day periods. But months and years is what I'm looking for. So I choose OK. And what I get is I get a nice little 27-row pivot table here with a brand new field called years. That years field is awesome because it's pivotable. I can take the years field, this is the key, and move it across to columns. So now for every month, I see what we did last year and what we did this year. I don't really want a grand total out here. I'm going to right-click and remove the grand total. And this is the point where for 15 years, I now had to punt and build a formula outside of my pivot table, and that is horrible, building formulas outside of your pivot table. Equal C5, but it doesn't give me C5, it gives me this thing. Started happening back in Excel 2002. Divided by B5 minus 1, that creates a formula that doesn't copy. But awesome trick. This came from the Mr. Excel of Europe. Thomas L. from Norway showed up in my seminar one time with this awesome trick. He said, take revenue one more time. And now I have 2018, 2018 next to each other. I want to drag years down. So now I have 2018, 2019. And this second one over here, I'm going to change, not to be revenue, but to be a percentage change from, percentage difference from, and I'm going to say in the year field, and then previous item, click OK. Now for 2019, it shows me what I am up or down from 2018. There is no change for 2018 because they don't have 2017 data. So a simple little hide there, like that. And we now have a report showing last year, this year, and the change. And what's beautiful, I can take month out and put sector in, and the report updates. Take sector out, put customer in, and the report updates. So awesome little trick there, rolling daily dates up to years, and then putting years across and creating that second version of revenue. All right, next up, I'm going to create a simple report with customer down the left-hand side. So insert, pivot table, OK. Customers down the left-hand side, and revenue twice again. First one's just going to be revenue, that's fine. Second one, though, I'm going to change that to percentage of column total. So I double-click the heading. That's a fast way to get into the value field settings. And I'm going to say percentage of column total. All right, there we are, percentage of total. That's great. Now I want to call your attention to one number down here at the bottom. My largest customer, Walmart, 869,000. They're 13% of the total. 13% of the total. I want you to remember that number, 13%. Because when I come in and use the filter that's built into PivotTables, the top 10 filter, I'm going to create a report of, it can be top or bottom. It doesn't have to be 10, it can be 5. It can even be top 80%, or give me enough records to get to $3 million. Top 5 items based on sum of revenue. I get the top 5 items, that's beautiful, but my hassle with this is my VP of sales freaks out because he knows that Walmart is not 24% of the total. It's 13% of the total. That number is wrong, in my opinion. Some people might want it this way, but that's not how I want it. Now, on the Design tab, over here underneath Subtotals, the 4th item down would solve my problem. It's called Include Filtered Items and Totals. But you'll notice, it's grayed out. Most people remember the day their kid was born. I remember the day this was grayed out, January 30th of 2007. January 30th of 2007, that's been 12 years. I check every day to see if they turn this back on. Someone on the Excel team has it on their to-do list, I'm sure, or maybe they left the company, who knows, right? I really want that total to be down there. So I was complaining about this in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 12 years ago. A wonderful guy named Dan shows up at my seminar, and he says, oh no, I do this all the time, I got a solution for this. He says, you're going too newfangled. You need to go old school to the filters on the data tab. I said, Dan, you can't use these filters on the data tab. They're grayed out. He says, yeah, that's what everyone thinks. You can't use those filters on the data tab. But the deal is, there's 5 ways to do everything in Excel. Like if I had to filter this data set, choose one cell and click filter. That's method number 1. Method number 2, one cell and Control-Shift-L. Method number 3, Control-T. Method number 4, select all the cells and any of the previous methods. But Dan in Philadelphia says, here's what I want you to do. Look at your data. It's going to be different every day. Go to the last heading cell, in this case, profit in I1. From that cell, go one cell to the right. Dan didn't call it this, but I've since named it the magic cell. For some weird reason, from the magic cell, when I turn on the filter, it doesn't filter J1, it filters everything to the left of J1. Now, no one cares about this method because there's 4 other really good methods. But the deal is, there's someone on the Excel team at Microsoft who, let's be honest, is being a jerk about this. Because when I click inside the pivot table, I'm not allowed to filter. But if I click out here into the nothingness, go ahead, filter all you want. Here, no. Here, yes. I've never met this person. I know a lot of people on the Excel team, but one thing I can tell you about them, they've never met Dan in Philadelphia. Because Dan would say, this is the last heading cell, this is the magic cell. And the people at Microsoft forget to gray it out. Watch these 2 cells right here, B3 and C3. I'm about to turn on filter drop-downs on those 2, which is completely illegal. And now this filter, number filters, top 10. I'm going to ask for not the top 5, but the top 6. This filter is not as smart as the others. And to this filter, 6.7 million is the largest item, and then these are items 2 through 5. I'm back to 13% as the right answer, right? So auto-filtering a pivot table. I spent 3.5 hours one day with Dan. There you are. Oh, I didn't get a selfie with Dan. I didn't get Dan's last name. If I ever find Dan again, I'm going to give the guy a hug. Everyone loves Dan's trick. But how did I know that Dan's trick would be that awesome? All right, let's move on to this one. This used to be called Eliminate VLOOKUP with the data model, but I'm going to have to rename it now to Eliminate XLOOKUP with the data model. Have you tried XLOOKUP, the new thing? It's cool, but that's not for today. What I have here is I have data on 2 sheets. The left data, the green data, is invoice data. It goes on and on and on and on. And then the blue data is a little lookup table over on sheet 2. Now I copied it here so we can see them both. For this to work, you have to make them both be tables. So insert table or home, format as table, or just Control T. The thing to watch out for. That first one's going to be called Table 1. This one, any guesses? Table 2. So I rename these. This one, on the left, I call sectors. or data. I call this one data. You might call it fact. And the one on the right I call sectors. And first thing I'm going to do, starting in Excel 2016, data has a relationships icon. I'm going to say that I'm going to create a new relationship. It's really easy. I have a table called data. It has a field called customer. It's related to the sectors table, and the field is called customer. Choose OK. That takes a good little few seconds there when it loads the data model up, and click close. Now to create a pivot table from this, I just go out here to the nothingness, blank cell, insert, pivot table, and they automatically figure out that I want to use this workbook's data model so they don't detect the data. I choose OK. And now, check this out. I love this. The first time I saw this was back in 2008. All the fields from sheet 1 and all the fields from sheet 2. That means I can choose sector from sheet 2 and revenue from sheet 1, and we get that report. All right, so creating a relationship adds the data to the data model, which is code for Power Pivot. They didn't want you to know you had Power Pivot because they wanted to sell you Power Pivot, but the fact is you had Power Pivot the whole way. All right, now once the data's in the data model, it unlocks all kinds of awesomeness. Let's say that we needed median. Pivot tables don't support median, but because I'm sitting here in a data model pivot table, I can now right-click and say add measure, and I have a whole new formula language, DAX. So I want median revenue. And that formula is going to be equal median of the revenue field. I can even specify up front that this is going to be currency with 0 decimal places. It'd be nice if regular pivot tables let me do that, but they don't. And then just check the box for median revenue, and I now have median revenue in a pivot table. All right, all kinds of calculations you can't do in regular pivot tables that become enabled from that box. Add this data to the data model. All right, let's talk about that box. This started in Excel 2013, right down here. Quietly, create pivot table, add this data to the data model. This is the boringest sentence I've ever heard. The amount of power that gets unlocked from checking that box is absolutely insane. I don't know why they didn't just say, hey, you're not paying for Power Pivot, but we're giving it to you anyway. Click this. Instead, they wrote this. I think I've started calling ATD, or whatever that acronym is, allow the de-escalated tools to debut magically, because that's what it does for us. All right. I'm not going to join any data together in this one. I'm just going to come back to my regular data set here. Not a table, just a range. Insert, pivot table, add this data to the data model, click OK. Tiny, tiny subtle difference. I have the name of the table. I didn't create that name, they called it that name. And I'm going to build a report that shows me how many customers there are in each sector. So sector along the left-hand side, customer next. All right, let's zoom in here a little bit. And you see the sector, communications, I have 3 customers. 1, 2, and 3, rows 4, 5, and 6. There's 3 customers there. There's 2 in energy. I'm going to try and get the numbers 3 and 2 in a pivot table by dragging customer over, and it's wrong. It says there were 48 customers. Count of customers, 48. That's not right, it's 3. And what's going on there? That's the number of orders. It's always been the number of orders. Now, in a pivot table, we can do sum, count, average, max, min, standard deviation 2 ways, variance 2 ways, product, which I've never done. But because I checked the box for add that data to the data model, there's a secret 12th choice all the way at the bottom, something called a distinct count, So if you've been trying to get a distinct count in your pivot tables, all you have to do is check the box for add that data to the data model, and you get distinct count. You know, it's crazy. I'm doing a seminar. Someone says, well, how do I get a distinct count? And I said, oh, yeah, it's really easy. You just check that box that says add this data to the data model. They're like, how was I ever supposed to figure that out? I said, you weren't. That's the problem. All right. Here's an awesome one. Because I checked the box for add this data to the data model, a whole bunch of things that are in regular pivot tables now become enabled. So let's get rid of sector. We'll put customer down the left-hand side. Get rid of distinct count of customer and put revenue out there twice. Change the second one to percentage of total. I know you just saw this a few minutes ago. Percentage of column total. All right, cool. There's my report. I'm going to use the old filter, or the filter that most people would use, value filters, top 10. I'm going to ask for the top 5, and this didn't work just a minute ago with a regular pivot table, but now, because it's a data model pivot table, Walmart is back to 13%, and that grand total is the total of everybody. And there's an asterisk there to let you know it's not everything. Why did that work? Because this thing that got grayed out on January 30th, 2007 isn't grayed out when you check that box. For 12 years, I would have known that if I would have just checked that box, my life would have been so much simpler. I love that they hide this stuff where no one will ever, ever, ever find it. All right, so there we are. There's our 5th trick. All right, now I'm going to give you a bonus one. I love this one. I was from Akron, Ohio. Akron, Ohio, tiny little town. And I had a lady show up in my seminar named Sylvia. Sylvia and I have become friends since then, but Sylvia walked in with my book called PivotTable Data Crunching. It was the first book that I wrote for Q. It was a #1 best-selling computer book for 46 minutes at 4 a.m. one day in January, but I don't care, right? We were the #1 best-selling book. Someone probably bought 2, and that was enough at 4 a.m. So Sylvia walks in with a book. I'm like, hey, this is cool, look. I've got someone who brought a book to get it autographed. You know, I'm all full of myself. Sylvia waited till I got to talking about pivot tables, and I built some sort of a pivot table. Let's just build a simple one. Insert, pivot table, okay. I'll put products across the top, regions down the side. Revenue in the heart of the pivot table. I want to put commas in there or currency, so right-click, format cells. And we'll go with currency in 0 decimal places. All right, now Sylvia stopped me right here and said, all right, you got a pivot table there. Oh, that was bad. Why didn't that work? See, it only formatted that one. I shouldn't have to select everything. That's a bug, but we'll keep on going on here. Actually, I didn't do format. I did number format. Wrong thing. Currency, 0 decimal places. Sylvia stops me and says, hey, make this report for every single customer in your database. And I'm like, oh, you're going to have to wait till after lunch because I'm going to write a little VBA for you to do that. And Sylvia jumps up out of her chair. She's like, I knew it. Sylvia, what are you talking about? You don't know the trick. She's tapping on the book. I read the whole book. You didn't put this trick in your book. It's like, Sylvia, this happens all the time. What's your trick? She said, all right, take the customer field. This is what we want to replicate. Put it up in the filters like that. Now, normally, that would let me choose one customer. But Sylvia has discovered a trick. Over here on the left-hand side, there's a big options button. Don't click the options button. It's not in there. Click the tiny drop-down next to options, and there's a setting there called Show Report Filter Pages. This is classic Microsoft. Let's get something really powerful and put it where you'll never find it. So, Show Report Filter Pages. Show all pages of customer. Right now, we're on sheet 6. It's going to take 10 seconds, and they're going to insert 27 new sheets. There it is. So there's ABC stores, AT&T, Bank United, Boeing. Each one, they choose the next item from the list. If I had 100 customers, it would have just made 100 pivot tables. Awesome trick from Sylvia. All right, so I love being Mr. Excel. I love traveling around the country, bringing you these tips that I borrowed from Dan in Philadelphia and the guy from Sweden and Sylvia in Santa Monica. Thank you for those. Let's switch back here to PowerPoint, which scares the heck out of me. I'm horrible at PowerPoint. There might be a survey tab all the way at the bottom. Or maybe not. There we are. Please evaluate this session. Thanks for coming along. If you love Excel like I love Excel, grab a sticker on your way out. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.